Hey everyone, Stefan Burns here. Today we're going to discuss an extremely powerful health and wellness modality that has the potential to transform your life. This is Biofield tuning. Something I first stumbled upon about 4 years ago, right after I quit my job and embarked upon this journey that I'm currently in, exploring the world, starting the YouTube channel, and also just trying to better understand myself, spirit within, and more. I had a Biofield tuning. I found it quite enlightening. And well, since then, I've been drawn more and more into it. And I just, in fact, completed my Level 1 Foundations Biofield course. So there's Level 1, which is Foundations. Level 2 is Practitioner Training. Then you can go out and do Biofield tuning for others. There's also Level 3 and Level 4, which are more advanced. I've been learning Biofield tuning from Eileen McKusick, whose name I first heard back in 2021 when I had my first Biofield tuning. And she is the author of two very popular books. The first one, Tuning the Human Biofield. The second one here being Electric Body, Electric Health. They are both on my reading list. I have yet to read them, full transparency, but they are pretty close to the top. I have a lot of books to read, as you can imagine. But I've spent time with Eileen. I've also taken Level 1's Foundations, and I've found Biofield tuning to be really transformative. It's a very powerful technique. And I'm also someone that's inherently skeptical of a lot of these things. For example, dowsing and some of these other modalities that kind of like you have to believe it for it to work. Well, I went in, did the Biofield tuning training, and yeah, you can go ahead and with a tuning fork, find different structures in people's biofields and start to manipulate them to bring about awareness within that person, whether this is like awareness around a trauma that they experience or wellness around maybe a health injury or something like that, and then also resolution where they can heal. So I just wanted to share in this video at the beginning my experience with Level 1 Foundations, and then there's also a bonus podcast with Eileen McKusick that her and I recorded when I went to go visit her in July at the Biofield Tuning Institute. And so I highly recommend that you watch that as well. And if you like to pick up some of these tuning forks, you can go to biofieldtuningstore.com and use the code Stefan Burns, all one word, for 10% off most products. So just to start, Biofield tuning, what is it? You have these metal tuning forks. This is a special aluminum alloy, and well, just like any tuning fork, you hit it, it creates a vibration, and they are specifically designed to vibrate at a certain frequency. So this is 432 hertz. We also have, for example here, 222 hertz. A lower frequency, and as you'll notice, a longer tuning fork, because lower frequencies require longer tuning forks. And well, my time as a geophysicist taught me that the human biofield extends out about 2 meters. It actually goes out further than that, but really goes out about 2 meters, and that you can actually measure this with a very sensitive magnetometer, because the heart produces a magnetic field, and you can register that using a squid-based magnetometer about 2 meters out. There's also new atomic magnetometers that are being developed and exist nowadays, which are very sensitive, that can also detect this human biofield. I've actually used one right over my heart while I was working as a geophysicist before the whole YouTube endeavor, and saw the magnetic pulse of my heartbeat. It was super cool. So if we have this magnetic field that extends out the body, and we also have this electric field that extends out beyond the body as well, well, then we know that there is an energy and an information field that extends out of the body. So it starts within and then also extends further out. Again, the edge of the biofield that you can detect with tuning forks is typically about 2 meters, because the magnetic force and the electric force, these are fundamental forces, the fundamental force of electromagnetism. 10 to the 36 zeros times more powerful than the force of gravity. So you all know that gravity is a very powerful force. You don't want to jump off of a building. It's not going to be good for you. Well, this is 10 to the 36 times more powerful. So that means that if you can interact with some of these energy fields, they can actually exert big changes within your body, health-wise, also mentally, your emotional state, because within this force field, you have potential energy. and with energy comes information. And so as things happen in your life, you have this potential energy, this information, and these emotions get stored within your body and also within the biofield. And because these tuning forks are made of metal, when you induce a vibration in them, they now are moving through that electromagnetic field. And as a result, there's induced electric currents in the tuning fork from the magnetic field. And there's other electromagnetic dynamics at play that allow you to interact and work with the biofield directly. So that is what we started to learn with Level 1 Foundations. We did a whole bunch of discussion around what biofield tuning is and certain considerations to have in mind as it relates to your clients and the different structures within the biofield. For example, it seems that pre-birth and gestation and birth are at the edge of the biofield, and then as you get closer to the body, that gets closer to your current age. So it's almost like we're an energetic onion, and the outermost layers are our youngest, and then closer into the body, we have our most recent experiences. So it's just constantly kind of growing outwards like this. And things that happen in your life, they will imprint in your biofield. So let's say you get in a big car crash at 20, and you're now 40. Well, you may find a structure in your biofield halfway in from the edge, which would probably be about 3 feet away from your body, that records that traumatic experience. And because trauma in the moment is quite shocking, we often don't come to full understanding of what that experience was, how it affected us, and the future trajectory it kind of shifted us into. And as a result, there's usually a lot of therapy that may be needed there, and integration especially. And so biofield tuning allows us to find these structures which are invisible to our naked eye, at least for most people, allows us to find them, and then a very skilled practitioner can hear the change of quality in the note, because this is meant to resonate at a specific frequency. Again, 432 hertz. It's meant to sound like 432 hertz. Well, when you are combing through the field, you will find spots where it's like, that doesn't sound like 432. It sounds muffled, or it sounds sharp, or there's a lot of low frequency noise in there, or a lot of sharp overtone pitches in there. You hear this very clearly. Again, I'm kind of skeptical. I have a good ear though. I was able to hear these changes in the tuning forks very precisely, and that's how I was able to comb through and perform a biofield tuning for the person that I did it for. I've also done a couple others. And yeah, if I can do it, anyone can do it, especially people that are more sensitive to subtle energies. They feel them in their body. They have that nice connection to spirit that just talks to them very readily. So we did that. There's a group of about 20 of us, and it was a fantastic course. I'd recommend anyone to take the biofield tuning course if you're interested in learning this modality for self-healing. You can tune your own biofield, or for offering this as some sort of wellness and healing modality to others, like massage therapy. It can be paired with Reiki. It can be paired with biomagnetic therapy. There's a whole bunch of things that work synergistically with biofield tuning. But everyone in the class definitely understood what biofield tuning was in a very visceral way. All of us felt it. There were some people that really felt it. There was a lot of healing that occurred during that because we were all basically working on each other's biofields for 3 days straight. And some of us had never had biofield tunings before, and so that brings up new things. And even though we were inexperienced in tuning biofields, we did have 3 teachers there to guide us. We were able to find these things and manipulate the biofield and bring about some healing and peaceful resolutions. And so I think biofield tuning is really, really exciting. I think there's a bright future ahead for biofield tuning as we move into the 21st century, 22nd century, this better understanding of subtle energy, how it affects us, and these more kind of esoteric principles that we've honestly forgotten. The ancients knew about this. Ancient traditions, native peoples, for thousands of years, they knew it. They may not have had books on it like Eileen wrote here, but they did know it, and we are rediscovering this. And you can be part of that ancient tradition by learning more about biofield tuning. And at a minimum, maybe picking up a tuning fork and playing with yourself and learning to use that, identify these structures, and bring about resolutions. It's very simple. Basically, you find that non-harmonious note. Let's say we find one, right? You just want to keep using that fork until that comes to a resolution, until it starts to sound better. And ideally, you're also connecting internally, listening to your inner dialogue, and maybe some things will pop up, some past traumas, hurts, or situations that make you go, maybe I should reprocess that or think about that differently, or it's time to move on. So these are my thoughts on Biofield tuning. I would definitely, at a minimum, if this is resonating with you, I would pick up a Schumann slider. This is a special tuning fork. It's a 12th harmonic of the foundational mode at 7.83 hertz, so 7.83 hertz times 12. And I have a boot on it, and what this does is weighted, so it has a very low frequency vibration, less than 100 hertz, and you can apply this to your body directly. For example, like your head, your solar plexus, anywhere in your body. That's really good to do. Right now, I'm actually dealing with a little bit of a wrist issue. My wrist is just really hurting for some reason. And well, all this morning, I've been going like this on my wrist. That's been really nice. And then I would also make sure to pick up one of these unweighted tuning forks. Ideally, you would get the 174 and also the 528. I also am pretty partial to the 432, that's not part of the official kit. You want to pick up a striker puck so you can hit this and you'd be off to the races. So without any further ado, let's now get into the podcast with Eileen McKusick. We answer some of your questions from the last podcast, and we talk about some of these things that are floating around in the collective consciousness, ideas and concepts, for example, the solar flash. And so again, if you'd like to pick up anything from the store, you can use the code Stefan Burns for 10% off select items. And well, let's get into the podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host Stefan Burns, and today I'm joined by Eileen McKusick. Once again, we have had a podcast already on the channel. It was very well received. She is the queen of tuning forks, Queen Eileen. And in that last podcast, we actually had some questions come in. So in this one, we're going to do a short question and answer. We've written down some of the interesting questions, but then we're also just going to talk about the fractal nature of biofields and plasma as it relates to us, the earth, the sun, and perhaps even beyond. We may do some interesting things with these forks in this video. So yeah, kick it off. If you could just introduce yourself to anyone that's new.
Hi everybody, my name is Eileen McKusick, and I'm the founder of a sound therapy method called Biofield Tuning. I'm the author of 2 books, Tuning the Human Biofield and Electric Body, Electric Health. And the creator of this method. I've been doing tuning forks for 29 years now, almost 30 years. And invented my own line of forks and tuning fork accessories, and really did a deep dive into understanding the human biofield, the body's electrical system. So I see our biofield as the body's electrical system in its entirety. And most of us were never told we have an electrical system. But we do have electric current running through our body, powering our heart and our brains and moving through our fascia and across all of our cell membranes. We're very electrical. And anything that has electric current running through it has a magnetic field around it. And I discovered that I can use tuning forks, which are simply tone generators. I know the word tuning fork and the concept of a tuning fork can seem kind of woo-woo at first, but really it's just a simple acoustic tone generator. And when these are activated in the body's bioplasmic biofield, they generate electrical charge. There you go, that's 432 hertz. So sound isn't just a longitudinal wave, it generates electromagnetic charge. And so my tuning forks act like a magnet as I move them through the bioplasmic biofield, and I'm able to do magnetic field adjustments with sound, which changes the way electricity moves through the body, right, Stefan? Because magnetic fields guide and inform electric currents.
Yeah, the flow of energy and the structures in the body. I mean, you really laid them out, like fascia and nerves and all this stuff. I mean, a lot of that initial research showing that goes back to like the 20s, even like the 19th century, even earlier. So there just seems to be a disconnect with some people in recognizing these things, and then also just simply putting them together into one simple bucket or framework, and then you went experiential and actually found out that these highly conductive metal tuning forks, which make sound and vibration, connect to this electromagnetic field that we have, which makes perfect sense to me, which is why I'm sitting here in this chair and we're talking together.
That's right. Yeah, in fact, Stefan even, he's been here in Vermont visiting me for a few days, and he's received a few Biofield tuning sessions from me. He also learned how to do it. We had a little training session first, so he's going to be learning how to use the forks. And one of the questions from the last podcast was, could Stefan receive a tuning and share his insights on it? So
yeah. And even before I share that, I was the second person to learn the method on that day, because we had one other guy here with us, nice fellow, nice chap, and he was doing the testing first while I was the dummy, you could say, laying down.
Call that the receiver, not
the
receiver.
Dummy. So, and it's funny because he's like, oh wow, like I'm really feeling it. I'm laying there, mostly just like relaxed and not thinking too much, but every now and then I'm like, I hope I can feel these darn distortions in the field or something. Like, you just don't know until you try. And I had a different way of perceiving them than he did. He felt them more in his hands. I heard them pretty obviously, but it's not like it was a 30-minute thing of like, oh yeah, I think I finally got it. It's like within about 60 seconds, it's like, yeah, there's the audio distortion. I got it. And it was really more just like learning how to hit the tuning fork and going slow enough in the right spot to then hit that patch where that distortion exists. So, I mean, I think hundreds of people or thousands of people have been trained in this, and anyone can learn this really, maybe not to a masterful level in one class, but anyone can learn the basics in one go. Mm-hmm. So that tells me there's something to it. The other thing that tells me something too is the actual impact of having now had, I guess we could say 3 Biofield tunings, but 2 from you, Queen Eileen. And yeah, it's a really impactful, profound experience. Your Biofield goes out, and the younger memories are stored further out, and the newer memories closer in. Though there is an intelligence to the Biofield, so it really kind of seems to formulate itself based off of the expectations you go in with. And some of the evidence for that is also like what sort of things present themselves. Like the intelligence of the bioplasma body will speak and bring to the forefront probably the most important things at that moment in time as it relates to health and wellness and spiritual evolution. So we got into some things pretty quickly. Just in general, I've shared this before on the channel, but gut health problems run in my family. Like my aunt is celiac, my mom's had Crohn's disease, and so and my diet as a kid, unfortunately, wasn't great. Once I learned diet and everything, I made it a lot better. But as a kid, you're kind of just a recipient of things. And so that's something I've worked on throughout my life. And I have the holistic gut health guide that I wrote, but pretty quickly zoned in on some things relating to family dynamics and how that affects like the gallbladder, the spleen, the pancreas, the liver, and seemed to make a notable difference, and definitely some powerful like emotional releases, which is always a good thing to release any stagnant energy that doesn't serve you in your body. Mm-hmm. Because the body remembers all these things, and I'd say probably the most useful aspect of it was often when we're in the middle of something, you're in the middle of it and you're processing it, but having a look back and a reevaluation from a very kind of neutral, safe container and standpoint is really, really useful. I mean, that's one of the reasons why psilocybin mushrooms are so powerful for PTSD, is that they drop you into the amygdala and allow you to connect to those emotions, but they also do it in a way that doesn't trigger your reaction, fight or flight response and such. And then you get these, the success rate for like combat veterans is insane, or overcoming depression, anxiety, all these things. The Biofield tuning felt kind of similar to that, and just you finding these things that the body seemed to be presenting, and then you with your intuition and years, decades of expertise, kind of knowing what that vibration meant and translating it, allowed me to go back to certain key moments And effectively, it's like, oh yeah, I haven't thought of that in a very long time. And I guess there is just a little bit of lingering stuff there that it's good to just bring conscious awareness to it, and then it just basically goes away or dissipates to a good degree. And so it just was, I just love this method because it's not simple, but it is.
It's simple.
It's very powerful and profound, and it's using like sound and vibration directly. Like so many people, rattle off that Tesla quote that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and that sound is the most healing thing, and all these sort of ideas, which are all very much grounded in some of the truth of our reality and universe. But this is a way to like really get tactile with that and to do it and live it and experience it. So I think it's awesome. I've had 4 tunings now, one like 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and now 3 back to back. And we'll see how many more. Again, I'm going to do the level 1 training myself in September in San Diego.
We're always adding new classes. And this is it's a very simple practice, but it really gets right into whatever it is that ails you. We talk a lot about mental health, and we talk a lot about physical health. We don't talk so much about emotional health, but really life is really all about our feelings and how we feel, and our health is so directly related to our emotions. And many of us are harboring emotions that we've suppressed, that we haven't expressed. And any emotion that you felt as a kid in your childhood trauma that never found its way out is really sequestering life force in your body. It's occupying space, it's holding charge. And this is a way to, through the magnetic field, release patterns of tension in the body. I've really come to the conclusion that most ailments are tension-based. And I know people, some people are like, it's all parasites, it's all viruses, it's all toxins. But a healthy system that's relaxed in the right places and tight in the right places, that is resilient and robust, can manage not huge amounts of toxins, but we're designed to take hits and process those and be resilient. And so this work really builds our resiliency by releasing subconscious tension. It just makes you feel more expanded, more grounded, and more able to just stay regulated more of the time. And that's really where health happens. So, and it's cumulative, right? Because the more you do, sort of the more coherent your system becomes. It helps to raise the overall voltage by releasing the tension that's restricting flow, and also to clarify your signals. So you just get clearer and brighter and stronger and like more you. You start to experience the potential that you have.
And in our first podcast, we talked about the health transformation that you had recently with the tuning, and I think it's specifically doing a lot more work with the sonic slider, which is a tuning fork that's really easy for anyone to use, because it's difficult to maybe tune your biofield further out, but you probably call it in closer, and you know the advanced techniques.
There's ways to make it work.
But one of the questions that we had was tuning for youth and longevity. And so if you could share your thoughts on that.
Well, for many years, people asked me if you could do this work on yourself. And I think my trauma response was to like make sure everyone else was okay. And so for so long, I was just so focused on everybody else, and it never even occurred to me, honestly, to try to tune myself. It just seems so silly in hindsight. And I would tell people, well, they asked me that question. And I'm like, well, can you give yourself a foot rub? Like kind of. Do you want to? You'd much rather have somebody else do that. But after a lot of people asking me, and then sort of getting to a point where I was healed enough to start taking care of myself instead of everybody else, I invented this fork called the sonic slider. And this is based in the Schumann resonance. So I know Stefan talks a lot about the Schumann resonance.
Schumann.
It's 7.83 hertz on average, right? So you can't make a 7.83 hertz tuning fork because it would be 4 feet long. So this is 7.83 times 12. It's 93.96 hertz. And I've made a lot of prototypes over the years. So we use 10 forks in biofield tuning. We use 5 weighted and 5 unweighted. But I've had literally like dozens and dozens and dozens of prototypes made over the years. And When I created this one, I came up with different numbers based on sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, the Schumann resonance, a number of them made. And I knew the moment that I activated this one and put it on myself that it was exactly what I was looking for. So there's just something about this particular frequency that's just super pleasing to the body. A lot of tuning forks, you can activate them and put them on yourself, and after a little while, just a short amount of time, you're kind of like, okay, I'm done with that. But this one you can just use and use. So I developed it with a really long handle, and it's called the slider because just like dry brushing or gua sha, you can activate it and then slide the handle on yourself. And you can slide your whole body. And I originally designed it to use on the face, to kind of iron out your face at the end of a difficult day. It doesn't get rid of lines, but it definitely smooths you out and it perks you up. And it makes your circulation, your color better.
The secret to youth is just to look young, but actually you're rotting inside. Skin looks good, but don't look under the hood.
No, ideally, when we're becoming coherent, we choose all things good for ourselves. So this is a fork. It has so many different uses. It's a great first aid one. I got a deer fly bite just the other day, and I put it on, like, within minutes, and just let the vibration run all the way down. And I didn't even get a welt, which surprised me because deer fly bites usually, so bee stings and all those summertime things, it helps things to heal faster. Actually, and there's a study that supports this. So when you activate a tuning fork, and this one has a little boot on the end, a little amplifier boot called the circuit boot, mechanically stimulated tissue heals 2.5 times faster than non-stimulated tissue. And that's from a Harvard study. Well, when you activate a tuning fork that has an amplifier boot and you put it on an injury or a wound, that is mechanically stimulating your tissue. And it's doing it in a very gentle way, in an acoustic way. It's not like coming in with a Theragun and being like, bah, 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 The tuning forks just very gently have a conversation with the body. I saw a comment go by, Stefan, on one of your videos that said somebody healed cracked ribs with using the sonic slider on them. And they'd had cracked ribs before, and these healed much faster with this, which makes sense. I mean, this is sort of backed by science. So we know from studies that, so it's not just for beauty or, it's just for relaxation, bringing yourself into a regulated state. It's very easy to get dysregulated in this world. And the faster you can re-regulate, the healthier you are. When we become dysregulated, tissues start to break down, digestion doesn't work right. So we really want to work to bring ourselves into a regulated state as much as we possibly can. And all tuning forks can help with that, but the sonic slider really is like if you're just going to get one, this is a good one to use. And you can use it in the field too. It's a really interesting experiment. Anybody has any kind of tuning fork at home, you can just activate it and let's just say I'm going to do like third eye area. I'm going to activate it and I'm just going to move it away until I feel the vibration become more intense. Just more intense, and you feel a phase shift. Like Stefan really heard it when we were using these forks. What I found, because I'm very auditory too, and when I first started using forks, I'm like, wow, it sounds different here and it sounds different there, and anywhere it's like was always sounding different. And so when I first started teaching, I was trying to teach people to hear it. And what I discovered was that most people were like our friend Fabian, who was with us the other day, they're kinesthetic, and they actually feel the changes. So with a weighted fork, you can practice just feeling when you're pulling away from your body, where the vibration changes in your fingertips. It's a little disruption in signal. A lot of people have a disruption in their signal where they hold their cell phones. It's like a cell phone spot, right? And you think about that signal going off and how that's always affecting your field. So you can find your own cell phone disruption spot and just stay there. And the tuning forks harmonize. They just harmonize the energy flow. They help the body to remember its coherent expression. So there's so many different applications for them.
And that sonic slider is 7.83 hertz, which is the average foundational mode times 12.
Yeah.
But Eileen, the Schumann resonance is rising. It's going up. We're ascending.
Yeah, well, okay, so we can both speak to that, right? Because I often get emails and comments and people are like, well, are your Schumann forks, because I have another pair of forks that are the 7th and 8th harmonic, so 7.83 times 7 and 7.83 times 8, called the Schumann pair. So I have 3 forks that are based in that Schumann frequency. I've just found them to be very useful, right? So much of my stuff is field tested so thoroughly. And so people are like, well, will these still work? Because the Schumann resonance is increasing. So there's this sort of story out there that the Schumann resonance is rising. Now, this is what my answer is, and you tell me if you agree with this, Stefan. So the Schumann resonance is a consequence of the standing waves that are happening within our atmosphere, that are generated by thunderstorms, by the solar wind, energizing the upper atmosphere, discharge between the upper atmosphere and the surface of the Earth. And so all of this electrical activity creates kind of like a heartbeat pulse of around 7.83 hertz. Now, sometimes we see influxes of energy from different sources that can cause a spike in the amplitude, and it can accentuate some of the higher harmonics. But in order for the fundamental 7.83 to go up, that would mean that the container that this standing wave is happening in would have to get smaller. And I'm pretty sure that's not happening.
Yeah, they theorize that back near the beginning of the Earth, the accretionary phase, when the ionosphere first formed, they think it actually formed pretty quickly. That it was a little bit more expanded out at the beginning, and so the foundational mode was actually a little bit of a different frequency. But yeah, you need the physical dimensions of the Earth to change, and or there'd be significant changes to the atmosphere, because also attenuation in the atmosphere that could shift things around. But it would need to be like really significant, and that probably would kick us out of the planet if that was to occur. Mm-hmm. So the big thing that's happened online is, unfortunately, a lot of people have read the graphs, and when there's an amplitude jump, and let's say the intensity spikes to 60, they interpret that as a frequency spike to 60, not an increase in the signal strength from a relative value of, let's say, 1 to 60. Then most people also misidentify what that's from in the first place. Usually it's a thunderstorm over that area. But there are subtle shifts to the Schumann resonances over time. Like solar cycles will shift to foundational mode from more like 7.8 hertz to about 8 hertz. But it's all within the range. And so if you are someone that's interested in this, or you already have one and that's a question, like it's all within range. It's all good. You don't have to worry about that. And then the idea with it rising frequencies that presents like this ascensionary impulse. And what I think is really interesting about the tuning forks is they do provide a pretty discrete path into examining the energies that you're carrying, and then working through that, and then basically enlightening your body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah.
So,
but we're not changing dimensions, though, right? So I'm a little bit cynical about this ascension and dimensional thing. I know a lot of people are on board with it, but I've found, as somebody who's been working with people for a long time, that childhood trauma caused many of us to disassociate. That if you can't get away from the tickling or the trauma or the abuse, you go kind of up and out of your body. And I know for me, my own healing journey has been one of coming back into my body. It's been about coming in and descending, about grounding, about really committing to being here and now. Like having my boots on this ground in this moment, on this earth, because it's beautiful. And not getting stuck in that sort of yearning for ascending somewhere or going higher. I mean, that's what happens when you die. Like you're going to ascend then. You know, the light, your biofield, your light body will rise up off of this plane. And that there are many gifts here on Earth right now. I saw a great comedian, and she's like, well, why do we want to ascend to 5D? Why don't we just make 3D better? Right? And I think that's really what we need to do. And that is really up to each of us to become more appreciative. And I've really come to the conclusion that the solution to everything is that it just needs more love. You know, your plants aren't doing well, give them more love. Give your kids love. Anything that's not so good, you give it some love, you give it some attention, and then it gets better.
Give your water some love.
Yeah, give your water love. I bless my water. I bless my food. I bless other drivers on the road instead of curse them. And so I believe in just finding the joy in everyday moments here on earth. It's very fleeting. So, is there an element of that feels like it's going up when we are feel great and we're expansive? Yes. So we do, there's almost a lift that happens in the body when we're happy or joyful. But it's not just up. We're also going out. We're going down. We're really expanding. So I like to think about, instead of raising our vibration, we want to clarify our signal. We want to get in tune. We want the musical instrument that we are to play a nice song, right? And not make noise and add to the incoherence in the world. So I'm all for staying here, and not trying to go anywhere else, except maybe just deeper into my own being.
And if we were to go somewhere else, that would mean we would leave our pets behind. And a lot of people ask questions about their pets and animals.
Good segue.
And so I know that my first tuning, actually, there was a cat that was on the bed right there with me. And that anytime that lady tunes, the cat jumps up and is like an energetic support animal, she said. And it seemed to help. So what about tuning with animals and then also doing biofield tuning for animals? Because our furry friends and maybe reptilian friends, like my turtle, I wonder if you could tune a turtle.
I'm sure you can tune a turtle.
But
tune a fish.
Okay. But our animals also have health problems and traumas and everything. And so what's your experience with that? And how could people, maybe if they were to have a device like the sonic slider, use that for their friends?
So I can't tell you how many videos I've received of cats getting their daily sonic slider treatment. It's like, so cats definitely love the sonic slider. Not all dogs do. Some do. Not as much as cats. Seems to be a ubiquitous love, which I like, because cats, I would imagine, are vibrationally discerning, as creators of vibration themselves. So we can definitely use them on cats. You can use them on dogs. We do this work at a distance, which I know, tuning forks sounds bad enough, but tuning forks at a distance sounds really far out. And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't experienced it. In fact, I didn't believe it. People had asked me forever, can you do this at a distance? And I was always like, absolutely not. Like, what a dumb question. I thought it was like all about on the body. And then I tried it at a distance and it worked. And then I tried it again, it worked. Then I started doing it on groups and it worked, which really amazed me. When you learn to become a biofield tuning practitioner, you learn how to do it at a distance. And it's not so different than doing it in person. But like, if you have a dog that is scared of fireworks or thunderstorms, they might be scared of the forks too. But you can take a throw pillow and you can say, this throw pillow is my dog, and you can do a tune-up on the throw pillow. And so I've helped many dogs that were scared of fireworks or thunderstorms, and their owners are astonished, right? So this goes beyond the placebo effect. If this dog received a distance session, and last night it was scared of thunderstorms, and tonight it's not, right? There's something going on there for sure. We have a bunch of people using them on horses and bees, people tuning beehives. So yes, you can definitely use them on animals. And lots of people too have animals when they tune that will come and be with people. They'll jump up on the table. I used to have a 220-pound English Mastiff, and I had a home office for a little while. And he would stay out of the office unless the person on the table was processing like heavy grief. And then he would come in and he'd lie down on the floor next to the table. So, animals are so sensitive to vibes and so responsive to them. And also, even when I do like virtual tunings through the internet, oftentimes cats especially will come and hang out for it. So the cats are especially attracted to the tuning fork work.
Yeah, and anytime I do the sound healings on the channel, a lot of people comment about their pets coming over and, all of a sudden my cat finally calmed down and You were telling me that some of the best results they've seen with some of these trials that you're doing with the control group and everything was for anxiety. And that's a big problem with people and pets. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anxiety is really rampant right now. And I don't think the word is the most useful word at the end of the day, because again, it comes back to that not talking about emotions, right? Anxiety is upset in the body, and it's often a consequence of some emotion trying to arise in us for expression, for understanding, for communication about what's going on in the body. And then because we've all been told that, we shouldn't be angry or shouldn't hate, or nobody wants to hear or see your emotionality. So we all learn to suppress our emotions. Our emotions, our feelings are such a key part of keeping us healthy. Our subtle sensing, the movements, the currents in our body move away from pain and move towards pleasure. Like, we really want to feel our feelings. I think one of the ways to achieve really exquisite health is to be exquisitely attuned to the subtle emotions in your body. What does your body want or need? When we did our first study on anxiety, a lot of the comments from people were, I actually know when I'm thirsty. I know when I'm hungry, right? Because when you have so much fear and anxiety running in your body, you're disconnected from those very basic subtle signals that if you are attuned to and you follow, you stay healthy. And so anxiety is really a sort of blanket term for, I've got emotions going on that are trying to come up and I don't know what they are. So I always ask people, like, if you're feeling anxious, that's sort of a feeling, what's the emotion that's underneath that, right? Like, let's just not use the word anxiety, because if we understand the emotion, then we can get into what is the message of this feeling trying to tell you? And then you can respond to it. You can solve that problem. If you just call any kind of emotional discomfort that makes you feel shaky or uncomfortable anxiety, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to solve the emotional issue that's underneath that. But that said, we did, do a big study. We did one study with 15 people. Each of them received 3 Biofield tuning sessions over Zoom. And the traits of anxiety went down enormously. And so that was a very compelling study. So we were able to raise a lot of money to do a much bigger study that we'll be submitting for peer review this year. So we're not just, playing around with this. We're doing the research to demonstrate the viability of distance healing, to demonstrate the viability of sound healing, and this whole idea that we have an electrical system and that things like anxiety are rhythmic, right?
Yeah.
Your breath rhythm goes off, your feeling rhythm goes off, and so it helps to stabilize your rhythms and get them back in order. And this particular group received 5 Biofield tuning sessions, which is really a lot. It can be incredibly life-changing. So we still don't have all that data compiled yet, but I'm so anxious to see it. And let's talk about that when it comes out.
So you need a tuning because you're anxious.
Yes, I'm anxious to see the anxiety study outcomes.
And today we actually had someone come into the building. The one person who had a tuning today is a gentleman that has anxiety, and he woke up today or something like that, and all of a sudden he had just really bad anxiety, and the tuning helps him every single time. So one of the questions that you may have and people had in the last video was, okay, well, how do I get this done if I don't want to do it myself? I want an expert to do it. Where are the practitioners near me?
Mm-hmm. So we have a directory online at biofieldtuning.com, and we have practitioners all over the world. If there is not a practitioner in your area, maybe you are supposed to become that one. And but everybody can do it at a distance. So that's always an option. And I know it sounds, I get it. If you're like, tuning work at a distance sounds ridiculous. We wouldn't do it if we hadn't seen over and over and over and over again just how much it works. And we have published studies to support it, and with more in the pipeline. So it's definitely worth, I recommend doing 3, starting with 3. You wouldn't go to one chiropractic appointment and expect that you're going to stay in alignment for the rest of your life. The work is really cumulative. So the more that you experience it, you work through these layers. It's really amazing to me, how the body brings up these layers. And very often what I find is that people will have some kind of kerfluffle in advance of their tuning that will bring to the surface whatever wants to be worked on. Because obviously, that happened to Stefan. Yeah, he got here. And this often happens when people come and hang out with me. Like their stuff just starts to percolate up because their bodies know that I can help them to integrate it. But yeah, Stefan had an incident that really brought up some patterns for him and made it a lot easier to work on and help those to resolve. They're just tension patterns that are in our memory banks, right? Your memories never go away. And in the biofield model, your memories are stored in your biofield. And I've mapped it. Like I've figured out very specifically where very specific memories live. So that divorce you had 20 years ago, we can find exactly where that is in your field and help your body to modulate. It's like going in and editing a file, like a music file. You're like, oh, here's the way that this track was laid down. It was laid down with a lot of chaos, and that's still in your memory bank, in your field, in your electrical system. And just by sticking a fork in that very specific spot and just letting the body hear itself, get that biofeedback, the body fixes itself. The body puts itself in tune with a tuning fork. We're self-tuning instruments.
Yeah, and definitely get maybe a few, because you were saying how early on some people would just get one and it would bring up stuff and they really needed probably 2 tunings.
3.
But that one wasn't sufficient, and then they would have all these kind of downstream things because it was like half remediated.
Yeah.
And so.
Right, because it can bring up discomfort, and that healing is often messy. The stuff that's in you, in the process of it coming out, often isn't pretty. It can be emotionally uncomfortable. It can be physically uncomfortable. And a lot of people are like, oh, I went to this healing session. I'm supposed to feel better. And instead I'm like in the bathroom and I'm having waves of emotion, or I've come out in a rash. And they're like, I'm never going back to that again. But what you really need to do is keep doing it, and it moves it through and you feel better on the other side. So if anybody does go out and get one and has detox afterwards, keep going, because the discomfort, you get through the discomfort, and better out than in. That's part of the youthification of this work, that I'm 56, I don't have any health ailments, I don't have any aches or pains, I have great digestion, I can eat anything. But it didn't used to be the case, because I used to have unresolved issues from my parents and tension in my upper GI, and I couldn't have dairy and I couldn't have wheat, and it was all just patterns of tension from trauma. And when I really relaxed all that and got my digestive fire out of tension and back into digestion, I can incinerate anything now. So
a pint of Ben and Jerry's a night.
No, that was my husband, not me.
Tell the truth. You live in Vermont. We know the truth.
I could if I wanted to. But I probably not. I don't want to. But that said, like if you're suffering from digestive issues, which I think a lot of people are, and you have to give up food. Like, I think it's really sad to not eat bread, like, or cheese. These are wonderful things, and it's nice to become free. And I think that ultimately that's what this work does. I think we all have a yearning towards greater freedom and towards greater embracing of our potential, because everybody knows that they have potential, and it's there in you. It's just sort of trapped and frozen in your electrical system. And once you get all of that moving and integrated, you just have way more energy to be you and to share the gifts that you have.
And the last question that we had was about Tibetan singing bowls and how this is different than the tuning forks, because they're both based on sound and frequency, and there's a lot of resources out there for sound healing, and I love my singing bowl. It's great. But what's your understanding of the difference between the two? And then also after this question, we are going to play the singing bowl and the tuning forks as just a nice, gentle meditation healing for everyone watching the video to close out.
So they're both tone generators. Obviously, bowls come in different sizes. You can also get crystal bowls. My friend Geraldine Glass does very lovely glass singing bowls. The tuning forks, well, there's a few reasons why I like forks. One, the crystal bowls especially, but even those sometimes can break pretty easily. And they're also sort of big and a lot to carry around. A set of 7 bowls is a commitment.
Oh yeah.
Whereas my tuning forks, I wrap them up in a little leather roll-up and they fit in my backpack. Or I can just bring the sonic slider with me. I bring the sonic slider with me everywhere I go. And I can help people get out of pain and all kinds of stuff. It's such a great tool to have. But I would say that when you get a bowl treatment, that sound waves are going through the water of your body, that it's really helping to settle you down. Bowls can be so relaxing. The tuning forks are more precise, and the practice of biofield tuning, we're working with the biofield anatomy map. And there are these things that I call hangout spots in the field. So I comb through the field, which is literally combing through your memory bank, literally combing through your memory field. And I might find a spot that's really stuck and really sticky, that's really tangled, where the wiring is all gummed up. And I might have to stay there for up to 20 minutes or even more. I mean, I've stayed, the longest I ever stayed in one spot was 50 minutes. And it was a gestation period for a man who was 80 years old. And I was in that spot for 50 minutes before the tangles finally let go.
You ascended immediately afterwards.
Yeah, I probably did. And so, one of the kind of stories that I often think of with this was I was working with a fellow who was so neurotic about his food. And when I got into his field, I discovered that he had been fed soy formula as a baby and he was allergic to soy. And so he was always throwing up, and they didn't understand, they're going to the doctor, does he need meds? They didn't make the connection that he was allergic to the soy formula. And so that whole experience of being poisoned for the first year and a half, 2 years of his life had really kind of twisted up his mind around food. And so I had to hang out in that area of his field, in his digestive tract, on his lower part of the body, about 5 feet off of the side of his body in that memory, until the body finally unwound the really deep tension knot that was there. And you can't really do that with a bowl. You don't get the same kind of feedback. You just wouldn't be inclined to find, it's almost surgical. It's like psychic surgery with the tuning forks. And we get this real feedback loop where you hear the dissonance, you hear the chaos, and then it starts to entrain, and then all of a sudden the fork starts to ring clear and true again. And that gives you, that knot has released. And after that, his whole relationship with food and his digestion changed dramatically, right? So that's the sort of thing that we can do with the tuning forks. Same with just one of the weighted forks on the body. You can get kind of more precise. You can get kind of behind your knee. You can't really do that with a bowl. You can put a bowl on your chest or a bowl on your back and bong it, but you can't get into these very specific areas. But I do think that they work really nicely together. We have a lot of practitioners out there who do sessions utilizing both, and there's no reason not to.
Yeah, I find this would probably be hard to move through the field and keep it going.
It does give you the same feedback, though. So if you're working with somebody who, let's say they have a lot of pain in one hip and not the other, when you activate a bowl and you hold it next to the good hip, it'll sound true. When you put it next to the hip where there's pain information radiating from there, you can hear the wobble in the tone because the body is giving off vibes. So they can be used in a similar way, for sure.
And now maybe we do a quick little tuning and just sound healing for everybody. So I recommend you find a comfortable position and just pay attention to your breath. Bring awareness there and not really force anything. Just eventually find yourself with a deeper breathing rhythm. Starting with your belly, going up to your chest, and then releasing and doing a full exhale. All the way out. Usually we only do half breaths. We keep half the air in our lungs, but full breath, full discharge. And then a big lung expansion again. No huffing and puffing, but if you find that you have this strong kind of respiratory action, just slowly quiet that down. Just listen to the notes and feel the energy. Let it wash over you. You can close your eyes, focus on your third eye in between your brows. And perform a body scan. Starting with your face, release some tension in your neck, shoulders relax. Your breath, your heart, your chest, slowly going down your chakra points, your hips, legs, even down to your toes, your fingers. See if you can relax even 10% more. Really just let go. Whatever you're sitting on or laying down on, let it just support you. Mother Earth has you. Allow yourself that deep nervous system reset. Slowly bring awareness back to your body. Wiggle your toes and fingers. Maybe give a big stretch. And then nice, big, deep breath. Calm, centered, relaxed. Welcome back, everyone. We've all ascended. And thank you all so much for watching. You can find out more about Eileen by checking the video description, where I have her YouTube channel linked and her Instagram and her website. So that is all there. And yeah, check out her forks or check out her classes. And if this really resonated with you, then I highly recommend you look into it. That's why I did. I wanted to see if there was something to this without just making a judgment and saying, oh, that's bonkers or that's bogus. And I personally have walked away with, thinking that this is really cool and a great modality that we have as wellness practitioners and people and spiritualists, I guess you could say, for helping us with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Between the tuning forks and being grounded and the bowls, right, this sort of thing, this is what we need in order to stay steady in a world that feels a little topsy-turvy. Be really committed to your own health and well-being, and we'll make it through.
You can learn more about my products at my website, www.earthevolution.com. And of course, please subscribe and stay informed by following the channel. Smash that like button. Go to Eileen's channel, give a subscribe to her. She has a lot of video content there, and she also does Sonic Sundays and live streams and a whole new, perhaps a YouTube expansion. We've been talking about that. So I think that is going to happen. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Wishing all of you well, love and light.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Please take care.